How's everybody doing? I'm Peter from Aviation for Life, and today we had our winter meeting here at Skypark. So here we talked about cold weather operations and what you should be doing when you're starting the engine and what your pre-flight should include. Even though this is a Skypark meeting, I encourage anyone who's going to fly in the winter to watch this video.
Key to wintertime flying is heat. You've got to there is no easy answer to this whole wintertime flying thing other than the flying is great. Pre-flight sucks. Post-flight sucks. And you will be cold and it will just suck, okay? But the flying's great. So come to grips with that now and know that the solution to flying in the winter is heat. So in short, if you pull the airplane into the hangar, we'll talk about all this stuff, and get it preheated, life's good. You pull it out, the engine's warm, battery's warm, you've got cranking amps, you can go ahead and get started. This is all about starting the engine. How many guys I've seen, I've been there, come out, do your full pre-flight, run your flaps down, run your flaps up, you're done, you're not going flying. So why did you do that pre-flight? So you can't fly? So the solution is heat, and I'll talk a little more detail about what we're doing there. Get snow off the airplane with a broom. John, we have a broom in the hangar. Look at that. It's great having an organized mechanic. It just makes me look bad every day. All right, so we got to.
It's the only one to use. It's got the orange stripes on it. There'll be one more of them. There's a squeegee and a brush on it. So be gentle. We don't beat on the airplane, but get the snow off of it because we're going to bring it into the hangar. If you got snow on your airplane, it needs to come in the hangar. Get the snow off so we don't have Lake Erie underneath the airplane as we melt it off. Frost. Can't fly airplanes with frost. It's not the weight, it's the disruption of the airflow over that smooth upper top of the wing. So get the frost off the airplane. What does that mean? Come armed with towels. Bring towels, bring your own towels. We may have them in here, but as the day goes on, all the towels get wet. So bring your own, you can wipe frost off. Be careful, I haven't seen it happen too often. We're fixing the parking spots, but sometimes the airplane will get frozen in place. All right, if you need help rocking it loose, breaking it loose, we'll do that. I've seen them frozen in place with water from the night before, and that's happened. So be aware of that. Pre-flight. If you're gonna be outside, we're talking 35 degrees, 40 degrees and warmer, leave the airplane outside, don't run your flaps down, okay? You're gonna use electric power. This is all about looking forward to getting the airplane started. Don't use your battery up, okay? How about you? How about you? Dress for the occasion. I know it's winter when I see Doug Cartledge in his red stocking cap out there walking around. I know, because Doug's smart. He has gloves, he has a hat, he has a jacket, he's warm, and his students over there, usually some teenager, as usual, underdressed, going like this as they're handling a fuel pump and things like that. That would never happen to you, would it? Okay, absolutely. And Doug just sits there like this. Hey, life's good. What'd you do this weekend? He's warm, they're cold, dress. So if you think it takes an hour to pre-flight an airplane in the summer, count on it taking an hour and a half, 1 + 45. It's just gonna take longer. It's gonna be more cumbersome. You're gonna be putting airplanes in the hangar, out of the hangar, things like that. It's just gonna take longer. So show up earlier, because pre-flight sucks, okay, in the wintertime. It just is. Hangar operations, if we're gonna damage an airplane, it's gonna be coming in and out of the hangar, bar none, okay? So if you are helping move an airplane in and out of the hangar, make sure I'm there, John's there, one of his mechanics, Doug, get Joel. Joel owns the airplanes, he has a vested interest, okay? Don't you be the guy on there that goes, oh, I just ran the tail into the hangar door because the door wasn't all the way up, all right? So as a general rule, have somebody from Skypark there to help move the airplane in and out of the hangar. You're gonna ding a wingtip, you're gonna catch a tail, or you think, oh, I got it great, and then you end up slamming and sliding into another airplane in the hangar. So John owns the hangar, Joel owns the hangar. Get help, they're around, okay? For planning ahead, Schedule Master. Everybody know how to use Schedule Master? Please do use Schedule Master religiously, please, because John checks it, comes in the morning. These are the airplanes that are coming up. This airplane's at 10. If you know you're not flying or you think you're gonna get weathered out, go ahead and cancel, okay? Go ahead and cancel. And if you know you're in the next morning, make sure it's scheduled because he'll look at it before he leaves here and we'll We'll orchestrate getting that first go airplane for the next day in the hangar the night before. We got 2 warm-up spots in the hangar.
Right now there's 0 warm-up spots because the 2 airplanes in there taking extra maintenance. I might be able to pull one out.
But typically?
Typically we have one.
Okay.
I won't guarantee 2 because we have that maintenance going. We have a long-term project sitting in the back, not super long, but it takes space in one space.
Okay. And if you assist bringing airplanes in and out of the hangar, make sure they're chalked even while they're in the hangar. We park stuff pretty close together. Makes me nervous. Torpedo heater. You're going to use a torpedo heater. You can get an airplane, get the engine block and everything up to temperature in 15, 20 minutes with a torpedo heater. Do not put the torpedo heater too close to the engine because then the paint starts to bubble. Not only are you heating the engine, you're heating the paint right there on the front. So don't do it. Keep it 2 to 3 feet back and it'll warm that engine up. It's an air-cooled engine. It's got great conduction. It'll take the heat right into the engine pretty quickly. So worst case, you can have an airplane covered with snow, bring it in here frozen on a 0-degree day, and 30 minutes later, you can take it out and it's warmed up, it's cleaned off, and it's ready to go. Okay, that's worst case. So count on 30 minutes. If it's not that bad, it can happen quicker. If we get a lot of snow, taxiing. We're going to clear the runway, we're going to clear the hold shorts, we're going to clear the fuel pumps area. And we'll open up some avenues for the rental airplanes and the whole condo, all the permanent owners and renters down at that far end, we'll probably open up an avenue for those guys to get out to the runway. But what I'm saying, you might not have a taxiway. If we've had a lot of snow, folks, there's probably not going to be a lot of flying, typically. Back taxi. Look, nobody's flying, nobody's on downwind. Use the runway to taxi back and forth. A lot of you all land at Bucyrus, a lot of airports that don't have a taxiway. Wayne County, you back taxi or runway 10, okay? It's okay, we can do it here. So don't be like a homing pigeon, you've got to go to that taxiway to get down there, okay? Stay on the runway if it looks like it's suspect at all. The runway will have some snow, it will have a little bit of ice on it. That's okay. It'll be not that deep. Snowplows, we're not gonna bend the snowplows trying to get down to the bare pavement. But it'll be okay. Yeah. Okay. Uh-huh. If you're the first go airplane, you may, if it's noon, get here at 11 o'clock. I don't know where your airplane's gonna be. All you know is the night before you try to get the first go airplane in there and ripple downstream the next go airplane 9, 10, 10:30. I don't have a good solid answer for you. Just be here early enough and help out, move airplanes. You know, we need everybody to help push out, push in, stage them. Because guess what? Using the Kubota tractor, that last little incline when it's slick and steering, it's better just to get 3 guys on it, steer it manually, have 2 guys push on the struts and take it in there. Those become your spotters anyway to make sure the tail is clear. Stay on the asphalt when you taxi. I've done it. 40 degrees, foot of snow on the ground, sunny. I'm not going anywhere. Oh, I put my main wheel this far into the grass. You're done. You're done. You're gonna have to shut down, get out, get some help and push it out of there. And it just looks like it can't be. I can't be stuck. That one wheel's just this far into the grass. Okay, flight. To get airframe icing, remember, visible moisture, the airframe has to be 32 degrees Fahrenheit or less. Okay, so know what you're operating in. Today it's what, 40 degrees? We know the first couple thousand feet are good. You're probably gonna be a block of ice at 3,500, 4,000 feet today flying around in that nice visible moisture, 32 degrees. All right, so enough said there. This is more about ground ops. My first flight ever as a private pilot, January 31st, 81, came out here. I'm in a 150, downwind, carburetor heat, pull the power, 10 degrees of flaps, nothing. They were frozen. They were frozen. So I've had flaps, just didn't work. It wasn't a pop breaker, they just didn't work. They were frozen in place. Land, no flap. I'm not going to get into this whole no flap landing. If you're a private pilot, you do what you do. But if you end up going down to Wadsworth, if you're a student, go to Wadsworth if it's open, please. That's another thing on your pre-flight. Know the status of Wadsworth if you're flying out of here or Wayne County.
So after John Richmond finished talking, our chief mechanic here at Skypark, John Lasko, came up and gave us his best practices for handling the aircraft in the cold weather.
As John said, my name's John Lasko. I oversee the maintenance here, aircraft and kind of the grounds also, things like that. If you see something wrong with an airplane, don't hesitate to write up the sheets upstairs. If you need guidance on that, one of the instructors or myself will give you guidance on how to fill them out properly. And that we do follow up on them. We keep them on file and that. So and also too, anytime during when I'm talking, if you have a question, raise your hand, we'll answer it. Too often questions get forgotten, okay, and questions are good. The de-icing, I'm going to go over that just a little bit more. John spoke somewhat about beating on the airplane, okay, no beating on the airplane. I saw one guy doing that one day. I said, "Where's your car?" He said, "Over there, that one." I said, "Let me have your broom, I'm going to go beat the hell out of it." He said, "No, that's my baby." I said, "Then I don't want to see you beating on an airplane again either, because even though they're strong, they're delicate. They break easy. That skin is fairly thin." Also, you'll see the orange bands on here. These are the only two that you use on the aircraft. Right now there's one. I'm going to pick another one up probably over the weekend, so there'll be two here. Can squeegee off a lot of the stuff, reach up and over. We'll go over some of that out in the hangar, how to do that. It's protected. I've put bands on here, things like that. Do that over at the tie down, not on the taxiways, things like that. We're working hard to keep the taxiways clear. The reason we have two specified just for aircraft cleaning is for pushing on the brooms. There's rivets, there's screws, there's metal shavings that can get in there and scratch the airplane or damage the airplane. So only these two I'll use for that. The tractor is used by trained personnel only, whether it's myself or one of the other mechanics, instructors that have been checked out with it. There's multiple things. You're dealing with the ice for one thing. The other thing is if you turn too tightly, you can take the nose steering beyond its stops and do damage. Also too, when you do swing and you're around aircraft or buildings, poles, things like that, like the pole by the balcony off of the office, you get too close to that, you also have a crease in the hangar door. One guy came too close to the hangar door many years ago and put a crease in the door with a wingtip and damaged the wingtip. So trained personnel only, we do handle that part. Also too, these are the instructions. They're posted on the door, so don't hesitate. My phone number is on here. If you need arrangements for the day before, for an aircraft to be in early or something, in particular on the weekends, because Sundays, typically right now, we don't have maintenance personnel. We might try to do a rotational thing between a couple of us to try to have early morning stuff getting going. But right now, we don't have that set up. We'll see what we can work out. But at least give a call. I can arrange to either be here myself or Paul lives close by if Warren's available. But weekends, he's usually not too available, on Sundays in particular. But Paul is close by. We can probably arrange for him to get over here, put a plane in, that kind of thing. But my number's here. I'll take care of the arrangements on that. We do provide the front spot, as you'll see in the hangar. One thing we want to do, we have squeegees out there. Help us out. It gets to be like a skating rink with the water in there, so the squeegees will just push water to the door as much as possible. We'll see about a vacuum to pick up some puddles that we can't get. But be very careful out there. Walk very carefully. We don't want anybody getting hurt out there. There's a lot of objects out there. Between oil on the floor and then oil and water, it does get slippery. And that's why we want as much water taken off outside using the broom and the squeegee to eliminate that part. Early, John's saying an hour, that's minimum typically, unless the airplane has already been flown. It can take longer because of shuffling the airplane. If we have to go get the airplane to get it over here, be sure you have your towels. We are not a laundry here. We do have a couple that we kind of keep handy. If you do forget, we try to help out. You know, the business is important to us here, so we try to keep that going. But try to provide your own. Keep them in a plastic bag or something that you can be sure that you have them with you. The other thing too is it doesn't hurt to have an old rag in a Ziploc bag for checking your oil. A lot of you guys are pulling the dipsticks out and letting it drip inside the engine well. Then we don't know if we have a leak or if it was somebody that just was holding the dipstick over the hole there. Okay, I've got 5 quarts, I'm okay. So if you think you need a quart of oil, I typically check the airplanes every morning. I do a line check every morning except Sundays and that, but if I see that it's going to be close for Sunday, I try to, on Saturday or Friday, add extra oil so that you guys are set for the weekend. The instructors do have access to oil. There's a special spot that they have just for access, so if they're around, they can get you a quart of oil, but I ask that they check it too to be sure that you really do need it. We've had some people come in and say, it's at 6 or 5 and it's a 6-quart system. That's perfect. In a 8-quart system, got the airplanes mixed up. That's all. So know your airplane that you're flying and what oil levels you really need. It is a requirement for the dipstick to have it stamped on the top of the dipstick, the full quantity, so you'll know if whether it's a 6-quart or an 8-quart system. Very important there. The preheating, John has gone over. Very important. It helps the cylinders with the fuel atomizing. It's a lot easier starting. Priming, very important. Try 2 primes if it's really cold. Don't go over that initially. If you do, I've showed some of the guys, some of the instructors about how to use the primer as it's cranking to inject, and it vaporizes the fuel as you're cranking, and that helps a whole bunch. We do have a couple airplanes. 4-4 Golf right now is just a little bit more ornery on starting. I think we'll be putting a new battery in that one soon. It's going to be coming in probably this coming week for a 100-hour, so we'll probably be putting a new battery in there. That one's just not cranking fast. Correct. It's a very fine nozzle, and if you go real slow, it's just dribbling. Okay, but if you press briskly, it's going to atomize that fuel. The atomizing of the fuel, you have more vapor. So the fuel vapor is what will ignite a lot better. And you're not creating an explosion, you're creating a burn. That's what's expanding in the cylinder. So that, like John brought up there, pressing briskly, not overly hard, but just a good firm press, okay? Going slow, some of the guys said, I tried your way, but I said, okay, how did you do that? And they showed me they're just barely moving it. And that fuel is just dribbling out of the nozzles. And
last year you mentioned also the timing between the prime and the because you're vaporizing the primer that it's longer.
correct. Correct. Be ready to start. That was a good point there. I'll even pull the primer out, and as it's cranking, inject it, and that will get it a lot of times. But be careful you don't overdo it. We don't need Lycoming barbecues out there, and we have had them. So be very careful with over priming. If you think you've flooded the engine, just stop, get one of us. There'll usually be a puddle underneath. We can deal with it in maintenance. Some of the instructors understand flooded. Doug in particular, being a mechanic and instructor, understands that. So get somebody to help, okay? If nobody's around, just stop. You're better off, because we've had a couple engine fires in the past when I was here. I was here up till 2008 until I went to the airline, and there were 2 fires in particular. They didn't do severe damage or anything, but they can. Flooded engine, there's a lot of fuel collected down in the bottom there in the carburetor heat box in particular. Keith was telling John, John brought it up earlier, pull the carburetor heat and it'll flip there and fuel can run down and out. Give it time, give it 15, 20 minutes to let it settle, let the vapors disappear. I'm not an artist, so we're just going to be you got your carburetor here, your engine is up here, okay? Now, on the Continentals, you have your intakes here. This is where your primer is. It's typically on the intake, it's down below. So when you inject, it's coming in here and it's falling. On the Lycomings, you have your cylinders, and typically their primer line goes up to a nozzle right by the intake valve where it's there. So there's a difference in starting that way. That's why cranking and injecting on the Continental seems to work a little better, because it's sucking that vapor up in. Okay, so there is a difference, and there's a 150 out here. You'll be able to see if you have any questions when we're out in the hangar, because we're going to go over tying aircraft down too. So that's going to be part of the seminar too. Any questions or comments?
On the cloths, so I always keep a stack of towels in my car, but what type of cloth for the windshield?
Soft cloth like an old t-shirt is perfectly fine. Cotton is great. Yeah. As you see the paper towel holders in here, somebody came with one the other day. Them are marked, don't use them for the aircraft. It adds up quick if everybody's taken for the aircraft, number one, when you can use an old rag. That's why I say checking the oil. I had all my students, and I did it myself. I would keep a Ziploc bag with an old rag in it. And I would check the oil, stick it back in there, zip it shut. Same with cleaning the windshields. I kept a small can of Lemon Pledge and a soft cloth like an old t-shirt. That's the way I instructed my students, was to just keep that handy, because then you always have it. And a clean windshield is important for detecting aircraft. A bug, you might think there's a bug there, and it's really an aircraft coming at you head on. So be cautious. I always instructed, I wanted that windshield cleaned before every flight. Very important.
John, did you say Pledge?
Lemon Pledge.
On the windshield?
It works great. Been using it for almost 50 years.
It's not like Windex, or?
No, I've never used Windex. That's got ammonia, it'll destroy the windshield.
Not glass.
It's not glass, that's plexiglass. Yeah, Lemon Pledge works great, or if you want to go ahead and spend more money for a plexiglass cleaner, aircraft grade, that's fine. I've been using Lemon Pledge for 50 years. Chuck, you've still using that, and that was what, early 2000s you were a student in that, and still using it to this day. It works great. The thing I like about it, the fine scratches, there's just enough wax in there or oil or whatever, it fills minor little things. Where you use the plexiglass cleaner, it pulls all that out of there and you get some glare off of that. So, but like I said, I've been using it probably 45 years or so, 45, 46 years. So it works good. Just a small can Lemon Pledge, not the bargain brands and that kind of stuff, because I know that works. It works well. As Keith brought up here about the batteries, don't wear them down. If you're having a hard time starting it, get one of us in maintenance or get an instructor that's familiar with the cold weather starting. It's a lot different than the warm weather. Warm weather, you got a lot better chance of getting it started. But you've got the fuel vaporizing a lot better. But when you wear that battery down, it's down. And if you do wear it down, don't leave the airplane out in the cold. Get somebody from maintenance, because if that battery freezes, it's shot. Our batteries run anywhere from $350 to $550 each. And if it's frozen, it's gone. We, in the past, had virtually a brand new battery, probably a month to 2 months old, left out in the cold, froze, shot.
10 seconds of cranking down possible.
10 seconds of cranking, let it sit for at least 30 seconds, in particular with the Skytech starters. They're placarded, you'll actually see a placard on the panel. So note that. The other starters, we're trying to convert as they go bad, convert to Skytech. Skytech years back wore out too quick in the flight school environment. They've made a lot of improvements and they're doing real good. You get a faster crank on the engine, creates better suction, creates better fuel flow, better starting capability. The older starters crank slower and have a big draw, and they're a lot heavier, so you actually gain a couple pounds of useful load by going to the Skytechs. But look for the placard, in particular for the Skytechs, because they are under warranty and they can tell the difference if it's been run for 30 seconds and if it's not been run for 30 seconds. So 10 seconds cranking maximum, let it sit for a minimum of 30 seconds to cool down. But remember, batteries, wear it down, let us know. We've either got to pull the airplane in or at least pull the battery and get it inside and get it charging. Yep.
How would you know, like the QH says, if you get a fire,
Mhm.
like once you throttle too much, you get a fire.
Yep.
And then you just keep cranking it, so it
Sucks air in.
Is there any reason
But
not
pull,
to
pull,
leave that?
pull the mixture. No, that's good, but pull your mixture. We have multiple fire extinguishers. There's one at pump 2, one at pump 1, and also under the balcony by Joel's, there's 2 big ones. There's a little door there with a latch. Use them. Nothing wrong with that. Plus 2 inside the hangar. Yep.
Just to clarify, if we, on the starting procedure,
Mhm.
prime it twice,
Mhm.
we crank it for 10 seconds.
Mhm.
If it fails, then what? What's the do on the procedure? Wait 30 seconds or do I need to wait longer?
You have to wait 30 seconds at least for the starter. The question was if you do have a problem starting it on the first attempt after priming it. Sometimes when it's real cold, well, you shouldn't have that problem too deep because the aircraft, if it's below 32, should have been pulled into the hangar and should have been preheated. So with the preheating, you should be able to get it started within the first, second attempt, generally. There's times where that doesn't hold true. In particular, you get it all preheated and your pre-flight's in the hangar, you're all done, and you decide you need fuel. So you pull it over to the fuel pump and a half hour goes by and you say, oh gee, I better go use the restroom. And you go use the restroom, so there's 45 minutes gone by. Well, gee, I didn't finish my pre-flight, so I'm gonna get another briefing. So there's another 15 minutes go by. Okay, now you're an hour, now you got a cold engine again because it's been sitting out in 20-degree weather. So you got to take each circumstance into account. It's a very good question that you asked because each circumstance can be different. In this case, you had an hour go by and the engine is cold again. But when you try to have everything ready so that when you go out, get your pre-flight done before you even start your de-icing procedures and all that, so you know you're ready to, pretty much ready to go. And fueled up. And in the 172s, put it on left or right tank. And the 182 also, left or right tank. It keeps it from cross-feeding. In particular, if you're sitting on a little bit of an angle, and in particular if the left wing is down, that has the overflow. You might have it topped off, cross-feeds. You might lose, in particular if you do it at night, the night before, you might lose a couple gallons of fuel out. Yep. If they're coming out of the hangar, we can usually tow them over. When I was younger, I would pull an airplane, even a 150. That's not bad, but you know, I'm not into working myself silly anymore. We have equipment. I remember being at a talk one time and a guy said, if I have to do something over and over again, I get me a machine to do it. We have machines here to do it. We're not here to kill ourselves. You can, if you're down at the tie down and you want to start it there and get it to the pumps, you can do that. But here again, if it's real cold out, let us get it in the hangar, or if you want to fuel it up first, get it to the pump, fuel it up, get it in the hangar, you're ready to go. That's why it's good to get here more than an hour ahead of time even. You can get your briefing, you can get everything ready, you can say, okay, I need to fuel that, you can check it, I need to fuel this up and get her going. Good question. Anybody else? Okay, we did touch on if you need the plane in the night before, call us. We try to take the first airplane first. If we have 2 spots, we will get 2 airplanes in there. So we do try to accommodate all we can. It's just sometimes with, if a plane's in for a 100-hour and an annual and we have a project plane in there, it's tough to get 2 in. So it does get much tighter and allow yourself enough time. That's why I try to even look at the schedule in the morning. If I have 1 in there, I'll get 1 or 2 planes lined up out front so that we're ready to make a quick switch so we don't lose too much heat in the hangar even. Once you open that big door, it gets cold in there quick and it takes a while to recover. So, and we do try to preheat the instruments even. We have them tubes that you see on the sides. We try to put at least 1 of them under the panel, warm the instruments up too. They take a beating when it's cold. So, anything else? What we're going to do too is we're going to cover some securing the aircraft. Once we're done here and you've had your snack in that, yep,
I'm sorry, John. One last thing I was just thinking. I've done, if the hangar is full, because there's a lot going on, I have taken the torpedo outside.
yeah,
You can push the aircraft up
Yep.
in front of the doors. Make sure it's far enough away so if somebody opens the door, you won't take out the aircraft.
correct.
But you can get some localized, pretty good heating with the torpedo heater on the engine.
Yep. And that's taking into account that the wings are clear and everything else. The airplane has flown in the morning, the airplane is clean, but it's still cold. We can heat up outside with the torpedo heater. So we can do that. I think that's pretty much what I have, and we'll cover securing the aircraft out there. One thing I'll bring up here on securing the aircraft. You have the surface, and you have the chock that's a fixed chock. Okay, try to get the tire back against, both tires back against the fixed chock, and then the front chock up against the tire there. If you don't get this aft one and it's forward, I've seen them as much as a foot off. The airplane is on about a 20-degree angle. Okay, when the wind comes up, that airplane can move. Okay, once it moves, you have loose ropes. Once you have loose ropes, the airplane is free to rock. Once it's rocking, it can even snap a rope.
I just want to show you guys real quick what you should do to tie down the airplane. Everyone has their own variations of the knot, and sometimes it's either doesn't hold up really well, or other times it's impossible to untie. So I'm just going to show you a really simple knot that you can do to tie it down, and it'll keep it secure. So you want to make sure you have good tension in it, keep it nice and tight, and then you want to just wrap it around here once like this. Get it nice and tight, and then come down once more. And then pull that down. Then once it's in there, it's not going anywhere. And then if you have extra rope, you can go ahead and do that again on the bottom. Thanks for watching. If you're new to the channel, I encourage you to subscribe. We release a new flight video every other week. And as always, your comments and feedback are welcome.